Are the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa just a team that isn't built for big pressure moments? We'll explain why they are built for those moments and why they aren't built for those moments. Also, hey, we're going to get into it. D-Hop says Tyreek Hill should be the MVP. Tua backed those sentiments up today when he talked to the press. Also, another center may be down. Liam in a walking boot. Will the Miami Dolphins offensive line be their downfall? And yep, Devin Achane, he looks like he might be hurt again. Dive fin too deep with myself and Neal Driscoll, and we'll also talk about the Jets game this week. Smash that like button, baby. Fins up. Let's get into it.
Loses the football. Touchdown! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score. Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown. The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown. He's going deep. He's got it over the touchdown.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
You're listening to Fin Too Deep.
Tua back to throw. Blitz coming. They get to him. No, he takes off running. And he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one as I'm joined by my co-host Neal Driscoll. It's a later edition of Fin Too Deep. We both were on daddy duties. I had my daughter's third birthday today, and it was daddy daycare in the Driscoll household today. So that's why we're a little bit later than normal, but we appreciate y'all coming in. Let's be honest, who wants to watch this Raiders and Chargers game? I mean, you don't even get to watch Josh Jacobs. I mean, it's Zamir White. Keenan Allen's out. Herbert, I mean, the Aiden O'Connell show, stop. Was it going to be 3-0 game on Thursday? They didn't flex that. I have no idea. But anyways, Neal, it's clearly resonating. Fins Nation, I mean, you got people tweeting, shout out to the homie Austin, that they're just staying away from football, let alone Dolphins content this week because of how bad we thought it was bad after the Chiefs loss. You can feel it resonating on every platform right now in Dolphins land right now. Dolphin fans are hurting still over that loss, epic collapse since 2016, 767 teams or 767-0 when leading by 14 with under 4 minutes to go, about 3:59. And Dolphins Nation still reeling. And listen, I think, someone said it today, Neal. I want to get your thoughts on this I'll get your thoughts on everything, but I want to leave you with this as I open it up to you. Someone said, I saw someone today and they said that, they were more excited about the possibilities that this loss is going to present than rather getting down, because now it's on this team to perform in that final 3-game stretch against some of the best teams in the NFL right now. So, now it's not, hey, beat the Titans and the Jets and then just win one of those last 3 and you're in. Now we got to go at least 2-2 here, 3-1, hopefully on this final stretch. How you feeling after that loss, and how you feeling headed in to the Jets week this week?
I'm better now. I'm not going to lie. When that loss happened, when I was 9 years old, a neighbor came over, left my gate open, and my dog Rusty ran across the street, got hit by a car, and died. And that's kind of what I felt like Tuesday. I was devastated because I thought that was just a game we had in the grass. Despite I never thought we played our best football, and I know everything that happened with the injuries. To be up 14 with under 3 minutes to lose that game, man. And now, after I've had time to digest it, I kind of am excited to see how this team will respond, because I'm with you. They have to go 2-2. 2-2, they still win the division. You know, they can clinch at worst a 4 seed, probably a 3 seed with that. And, you know, it's not the number 1 seed we were aiming for, but look, you know, other teams tried. It is what it is. 1-3 or 0-4 would be an absolutely monumental collapse. And I don't think this team has the makeup for that to happen. It seemed like they were flying a little too high and they were overlooking their opponent a little bit. And maybe a slice of this humble pie will get them kind of refocused and re-energized. But, you know, one thing we'll both agree with, I think, is that, like, the amount of injuries to key players that we've battled all year long, it just – every time we get somebody back, it's like another guy goes out. And it's just frustrating to see, because I don't think we've seen the best version of this football team yet this year. And I don't know if we will unless they can get healthy. You know, the Connor Williams injury
we won't,
this week.
because the Connor Williams injury is too big.
Yeah, the Connor Williams injury, I mean, like, I don't want to understate how good he's been. And he had his snap issues. But I said this week, I think the biggest downgrade on this team is Tyreek to any other receiver, Tua to Mike White, and then it's Connor Williams to Liam Eichenberg. I really think it's that drastic of a jump. Connor handled Quinnen Williams when they've played. He's played amazing against the top, you know, defensive fronts in football. Not having him for the rest of the year, it worries me. I'm not going to act like the sky is falling, but it's a huge loss to overcome. And then, you know, we still don't know when Robert Hunt and Teron Armstead are going to be back. So I don't know what this offensive line is.
And it seems like Teron Armstead's closer to coming back than Hunt.
Right. I don't think Hunt's back this week. I think we're going to have a pretty interesting offensive line.
I don't think you might not see Hunt till either the second final game of the season or the last game of the season heading into the playoffs.
Right. So it's interesting, man. And I'll say this. It's like when you give out your next big contracts and injuries happen in football, but the Dolphins have to be wise on who they pay based off injury history, right? And I bet that's not a knock on Connor. That's not a knock on Robert Hunt. But I don't want to spend money for people that aren't active. And, you know, freak injuries happen. But, like, if I see people that are consistently hurt, then I have severe concerns about paying them big money on a new contract. But, I mean, the loss sucked. I'm over it. I'm ready for the Jets this weekend. I'm not going to label this a must win, but then I kind of might label it a must win, because you cannot lose to these two teams back to back, right? Like, I just don't think you can at home, like at the Rock, take care of business, overcome your injuries. I don't care if it's 17-14, just get the damn win.
So, you know, speaking of that, what would you do with Connor now? Because I said on the show yesterday when me and Martin were breaking down the film and stuff, we opened up talking about like Skura and Harrison being added, and my whole thing was, listen, you know, and I got into it, you know, I made the point, Armstead, if he's healthy, his market value was 20+ million, but we signed him for 15 to 16 million because he can't stay healthy. With Connor Williams, you remember he tore his ACL in his other knee in 2019 with the Cowboys. So this is now 2 torn ACLs in 4 years. And his market's going to dictate around 12 million. Listen, if you're willing to come back here and talk about, you know, $6, $7, $8 million a year, let's have the conversation. But $12 million or market value and I get people, you can throw all the PFF grades you want at me, but here's the thing. He ain't going to be back till what? Earliest October next year, maybe November, December, if it's normal. And then once you're back, it takes another year to be normal from an ACL injury. So what? I'm going to be 2 years into his new contract until I start seeing normal I can't. This opens things up for me in terms of, I'll be honest with you and everyone here. You know, I've been quietly preaching we need that tight end. Everyone keeps talking about that third option. Well, that's it. We don't threaten the seams at all. I don't know. You know, I'm going to hammer Omar next time we're on our Cover 4 pod, because I still don't understand how he shot down and even gave his squiggly eyes at my notion that we need to find a legitimate blocking / playmaking threat at tight end, because that'll open this offense like you wouldn't believe, a la Darren Waller, a la George Kittle, etc. when those guys are in their prime.
Look what Sam Laporta did in Detroit this year.
Well, don't get me started on my boy. Who did I want? Who was my tight end?
I
Who was my
know,
guy?
and he went way earlier than we anticipated. If we don't lose that pick on the yacht, maybe he's a Dolphin.
Well, here's the thing. You remember how low I was on Kincaid, but how high I was on Sam Laporta? And who's clearly one went in the first and the other one is not even close right now, right? Give me Luke Lackey out of Iowa. That's my guy. I'll just give me the Iowa tight end.
Unfortunately, I got told by a big Iowa guy that it's unlikely that he declares because he was battling injuries all season. Yeah.
He's coming back. Oh, no. But anyways, my whole thing here is, listen, with this whole Connor thing, I'm going to be honest with you. Center becomes my top priority
in the draft.
Free agency or the draft. I mean, whoop! Like, right? Because what are we going to do here? I go back to that money. Unless you're about to take $6, $7, $8 million a year on a team-friendly deal with an out because of your injury history, I'm sorry here. And here's the thing. Neal, he already missed how many games? What did he already miss? He already missed games earlier this year for a groin injury. So it's not like it's just the ACL this year.
Yeah. I think with him that you try to give him a 2-year deal where the first year is kind of like, hey, buddy, we're doing you a favor by paying you knowing that you're not going to play much. So, like, think about like a 2-year, $14 million deal.
Do we want that? Because now what we're riding Eichenberg till December or November again?
My new philosophy, honestly, dude, and when it comes to the Dolphins is I was on here pounding to pay Connor Williams and Robert Hunt and let Wilkins go. I still don't know how.
Right.
What I did see him say a better chance.
Center end of the first round is prime for that top center, but all the tackles are gone by that time.
Well,
so
I agree. Think about this though, because I like rookie linemen.
Creed Humphrey.
Yeah, we should have. Rookie linemen can play, and we're gonna have Armstead and Austin Jackson. So if in the scenario we want to spend our 2 first picks in that draft, get a Troy Fountain who from Washington who could play at left guard, and in the second round get Zach Frazier from West Virginia, dude. Build that middle of that line, man.
Or make a play for Cesar Ruiz because they got to move money in New Orleans and Eric McCoy and Cesar. They're not going to be able to keep both.
Yeah, because I'm with you, man. Like I Robert Hunt, I'm good with keeping him. I'm not going to break the bank. If he wants $8 million a year, I'm cool with that.
Like, If we're talking 12 to 14, we got to have this conversation of sorry.
Bon voyage. I'll see you later. Because I do think there's really good offensive linemen they'll find in this draft, but. Man, it's discouraging because that is what scares me. I don't know about you, but that either man. It seems like that, right?
Go back to Pouncey. Remember how good Pouncey? Like, remember the unicorn line? We always talk about the 2016 unicorn line. How good was Pouncey? Always hurt, right? How good was Remember Brandon Albert? People forget how all pro.
Jake Long was always banged up too.
Yeah. But remember, we had Brandon Albert for like that 2-year window, and he was so freaking good that Tunsil kicked inside and learned next to him, bro. Like,
James was always hurt. Jawan James was always hurt here.
No, Tunsil's the one that never gets hurt. We traded him, bro.
I know. It was a good trade, but God, I would love to have him back.
Oh my God, so would I. Shout out to Sean Tunsil. His cousin comes through my chat all the time, and I got him on PlayStation. He's a good dude.
He might be one of the top 5 players in this league that I would want to add to my team at this time.
He might be one of Chris Greer's top 3 draft picks ever.
Yep. Amazing. Get X in round 2. Oof, that draft.
All right. Well, we're talking about the offensive line, so we'll flip things here. We'll get into Tua Tagovailoa, the Dolphins, and pressure after this. So let's talk about this.
Yep.
All right. Eichenberg today. I'll bring it up here so people can see exactly what I am talking about. So this is a tweet from Barry Jackson earlier today. Here's the deal. Liam, who wasn't seen in the locker room today, was wearing a walking boot after the game. Jonathan Harrison, who hasn't appeared in a game this decade, being a little facetious there, Barry. 2019, all right? Said he makes it feel like it's 10 years. Anyway, said he immediately began working at center upon his arrival. He was summoned here while on the couch, ready to watch Netflix. Literally, we're picking guys up off the couch right now. But from all reports, Harrison's apparently, like, bricked up. You know, like he is raw.
Saying that, yeah.
Yeah, a couple guys said that. So All right. And he said as soon as he landed, he started taking reps here. Matt Skura was thrown to the practice squad. What does that tell you? They worked both these guys out, and Harrison was clearly in more better game shape than Skura was, because Skura was on the Rams last year, right? So it looks like, brother, we might be rolling with Harrison at center. Not even Liam Eichenberg on Sunday against Quinton Williams and company.
Yeah, I think that's
holy Jesus, Neal.
This interior of the line this week is going to be the worst we've seen all season. I think. I mean, it's going to it's Lester, Cotton, Robert Jones, and Harrison, right?
Is this going to listen? Is the offensive line going to be our downfall? You know, I'm sitting here thinking it might be Sanders or McDaniel's situational play calling. Is this offensive line going to be the downfall for the Miami Dolphins, bro? Because there's some data that's going to just, raise your eyes here, okay? So you look at Tua, right? Just for example, this past week, Tua was sacked 5 times. When he was under pressure, he completed 5 of 12 for 56 yards per PFF. Now, when you go ahead and you look at what Next Gen Stats had, he was pressured on 39% of his dropbacks, sacked 5 times. When facing pressure, he was 4 for 11 for 27 yards, minus 20.4 completion percentage over expected. But without pressure, Next Gen has him 19 of 22 for 213, a plus 12.6 CPOE. And then PFF has him when he was kept clean at 18 of 21 for 184 yards. And this isn't just a vacuum. Like, check this one out. Tagovailoa, PFF has him pressured on about 44% of his dropbacks against Tennessee. And when under pressure this season, Tua Tagovailoa has a 57.2 passer rating, which is 36 among all NFL quarterbacks. Now, the under pressure passer rating is better than only 5 other quarterbacks: Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and Bryce Young. Dak Prescott, Lamar, Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow are all top 10 in passer rating when under pressure, obviously because of their ability to extend plays. Now, Tua Tagovailoa has completed 41% of his passes when he's pressured this year, with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's 34 of 83 for 457. By comparison, Prescott is completing 63.9% when he's pressured. But check this out. When Tagovailoa is clean, he's fucking elite, bro. He's 116.6 passer rating, and that's second amongst all quarterbacks behind only Purdy, who's 131.8. And when given time to throw, Tagovailoa is completing 76.9% of his passes. He's 269 of 350 with 22 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Those 22 touchdowns when he's kept clean, second most in the NFL, only behind Dak Prescott, who has 23, and only Purdy at 79% has a higher completion percentage than Tagovailoa when kept clean. And this goes into what we were just talking about investing in the draft or whatever the case may be. This is why we're stressing about center already, you know what I mean? Because it's just so evident. Because and here's the thing, Neal, it's not about second read. It's not about whether Tyreek's on the field or not, because we've seen, heading into that game this week, we've seen Tyreek's numbers when he wasn't on the field. And Tua's numbers when Tyreek wasn't on the field heading into this past game, they were very good. Like, he was fantastic. When that's the situation. So my whole thing here is, bro, you look at this and how evident it is, and now we know what the kryptonite of this offense is pressure up the interior, penetration up the middle, because that'll give to a happy feet, but it'll also throw off the timing and the rhythm of the offense. And you just named the interior, Neal. Is this going to be the downfall for this team?
It really could be, man, and that's where we got a lot of tests. Like this week, it's not just Quinton Williams; it's Quentin Jefferson on that defensive front, Solomon Thomas, who gets after it a little bit. They have Bryce Huff, Jermaine Johnson's kind of found himself there. So this offensive line is going to be very tested against this Jets team, and it doesn't get easier, man. Then we have Micah Parsons coming up the following week, right? And then you're going to have a Baltimore front with Justin Matabuki, who's playing better than any defensive tackle in football, with Clowney on the front, Travis Jones, Michael Pierce. And then you go and you play the Bills, and, the Bills have Rousseau and Ed Oliver. So this line, man, it there's no doubt that when the line was healthy, the number one person that had the odds to win the MVP in Vegas was Tua Tagovailoa. He was playing unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's unfair sometimes for the fan base to really, like, the Titans game. I saw some of the kind of rhetoric be that, like, Tua didn't rise to the occasion. And I'm like, man, like, the last play of the game, the offensive tackle that we just paid $13 million to got abused by Harold Landry, if we just want to be honest about it, right? Like, so, I mean, like the quarterback can only do so much with intermediate pressure coming right up in his face. And
are you talking about that one where he whiffed? It was 2 plays before the final play. It was right before the Achane screen where, if you watch it, Harold comes off the edge, Austin whiffs, right. And there's I'm sorry, pardon my language, people, but there's a fucking deep dig right over the middle of the field to Berrios that Tua is clearly eyeing. It's open. Tua goes to launch it, but because Austin whiffed on we take it, and then that's the one where he had to throw it underneath to Achane to avoid the sack. And it fell incomplete. That's the one you're talking about, right?
Well, yeah. And just that whole series, you can read by Tua's body
language. The play calling wasn't good on that series.
The play calling didn't help him, but Tua's body language showed me that he was maybe not frustrated is the worst word, but he was aware of the pressure and the ability for the defense to overtake the offensive line. It was consistent in those situations. I mean, Liam Eichenberg, man, at center – I mean, like, honestly, and it's crazy. This is how crazy the injury situation on the offensive line is. Austin Jackson might have played one of the most horrific games I saw a center play last week, yet I'm going to miss him this week because I'd still rather have him in there than Robert Jones and Lester Cotton, like, at guard. Like, yeah. So, like, it's to me, the answer to your question, unfortunately, is it could be the reason that our season doesn't meet the expectation it does. And that's why, for me, man, I'm employing this week stats don't matter. I don't care about what the box score says. If it's 2-0 and the Dolphins win, get this team healthy the best you can for the final 3 games. If you're 10-4 with that stretch, all you really have to do is win 1 game and the division is yours, right? Especially if the Cowboys handle business and beat the Bills this week, right? So, I'm worried about it. I'm not going to overcome it and sit here and tell you that I'm not, but I do think they can overcome it against the Jets. Because I think Mike McDaniel is going to have to formulate a game plan that creates the pressure in the middle from being minimized, whether they're getting the ball. It might be a run-heavy game is what I'm saying. And I don't think Tyreek's going to be 100% either. So I do think it's going to be an opportunity for the Dolphins to really try to establish the run. And if Achane's down, we might be seeing a lot of not just Mostert, but we might be seeing some Jeffrey Wilson.
Yeah, we keep saying that and we never do. You know what I mean? It's crazy. I mean, like, listen, EJ makes a good point. Says, come Dallas, the O-line could easily be Armstead, Jones, Liam, Hunt, and AJ. Please, God. Jones looked, I'm going to be honest with you, Jones looked worse than Cotton this week.
Yeah, he looked really bad.
Robert Jones did not look good this week. Like, Lester, I could see why they were starting Lester Cotton after I saw Robert Jones out there this week. That's the first thing I got to say. Man, a little part of me, I know it's such a I know it's such a long shot. God, I'm hoping Harrison or Skura just step in and it clicks. Please, God. Right. Please let one of them just step in. They've been in the league, around the league long enough where please just let one of them step in and be competent so Eichenberg can go to right guard. Lester can go Eichenberg can go to right guard to Hunt's back. You can have Lester at left guard. And then when Hunt comes back, you can put Liam back there. It just allows the flexibility, man. And
well, and you know what? Sometimes, man, I hate to say it like this, but we have so many fanboys sometimes in the fan base when, like,
because Eichenberg did settle in by the end of it. He was settling in a bit more than he was by the first 3 quarters, right?
Today they released that center from Utah who was the undrafted guy on the practice squad, and I've seen people like clamoring for him to start. And everything that I've heard from anybody that saw him in training camp, I heard he was just getting dominated. So I don't understand why people jump in like, this guy's a true center and he's ready to start. No, he's an undrafted. With the problems that we had, they went out and signed not 1 but 2 centers to put on the roster over him. Like it's not like this guy's an NFL quality player. So you can't that's where it's just like sometimes like the fandom that I see on here, like I'm just like I scratch my head. I'm like, what the hell do you think? Like, like I'm not saying our front office has every.
Well, it's the same thing with Claypool. All of it. Oh, Claypool this, Claypool that. Listen, what they're just trying to get into Izakama's role. Look at how long and patient they were with Izakama to get him ready for his role before that injury happened. They basically shelved him last year just to have Welker work on him and get his route tree up to where it was. Then Embry and Frank Smith helping him cross-train him a little bit as a tight end. Claypool is the same thing. You could clearly tell the idea was, okay, that portion of the playbook, that idea in the playbook we had with Izakama, we want to translate that to Claypool, who's obviously a more gifted guy. And that's going to take time. Like, I don't think you see those fruition. I don't think you see you might see flashes of it if they decide to unveil him at some point in the end, in the stretch run or the playoffs, but you don't see those fruits of those labor until maybe next offseason if he comes back. Like, but it's okay. He's this, he's that. But, you got to trust our stat. Now, listen, I will say this with the Connor Williams thing. Was I not pounding the table for depth at the trade deadline? I mean, I talked about Cody Whitehair. You brought up Ezra Cleveland. We brought up James Brunskill. I mean, we brought up a bunch of guys here. And, now I get some of them were money. I even brought up Cesar Ruiz and trying to make that move. I get some of them were money, 110% get that. But it wasn't even just for the ACL. It was the fact that groins can be nagging. Hell, we've seen it with X for a couple of years, right? We know how much that could be nagging, and especially when a lot of your game is based on the base of your body, right? And here we are. Like, listen, they got faith in Eichenberg, and I get that to an extent, but now you got nothing behind him, and now you got to get these new guys in late, and you got to get them acclimated to what you're running. So, I mean,
dude, Dan Feeney would look good at this point, and we gave him around for a 7th-round pick, but even Dan Feeney would look better than some of the things we have out there.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm not saying that he's Zach Martin by any means, but like, at least he has some NFL experience for him. Like, he's a veteran. Right. Like, that was the one thing that I think we had some depth. Obviously, Kendall Lamb's a good swing tackle, but I think a lot of our depth, especially in the interior, is just very, very young. Like, I'm even thinking part of this reason is there, and I know it's not their natural position, but is there the ability for like a Keon Smith to kick inside for a game if things get bad this Sunday? Like, I know that's not what his body type is, but like when I saw Keon Smith out on the field in his limited snaps that I've seen this year, he's looked better than a lot of these guys that we're trouncing out there. The answer is that's a tough transition for players to make, but like, just put a big, strong son of a bitch and get someone in the way. Because we all agree with this. Our season goes up or down with that quarterback, right? It's over if that quarterback's not out there. And the Jets, to me, and I don't want to say they're a dirty team, but I feel like they're going to be out for blood a little bit after what we did to them on Black Friday, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if you see Michael Clemens, who's probably one of the dirtiest players in football, come in there and take a cheap shot or something like that. I think it's just something to watch, man. And I do think this, though, overall reason, this team better be ready and motivated after Monday night. Like, if they come out flat,
that's going to be that'll concern me the most, because I'll be honest with you, I expect them to handle the Jets. It's what are you going to do when we go up against the Cowboys, the Cowboys? Really, to me, I kind of wish the Cowboys game was this week, to be honest with you.
Right. No, me too. It's a big game, man. Again, I don't want to say it's a must win, but it's close to a must win for me. Like, because if you leave that stretch where you were 9-3 and then you're 9-5 with that murder row of schedule, man, it gets awfully daunting at that point. So you got to take care of business at home to get this win.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this right now. Let's talk about if the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa are built for big pressure situations. Now today, they're talking about, Reek being out, and he said today, and I quote, if Reek isn't available, I think Jalen understands his role with stepping up. I think everyone else understands their role as well. It's tough not having someone like Tyreek out there when sort of the entirety of the offseason was built around him and also Jalen. So he said the offseason was built around Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. And now you take away one of those pieces, and guys can double Jalen and leave other guys one-on-one. It gives other guys opportunities that can really do something special for us. Now, also, when you look at Tua, I mean, we could go back and look at his game against Cleveland last year or his game against Detroit, where, Cleveland alone, I believe he had 12 different receivers. I think Tyreek had like 60 some odd yards that game, but Tua threw for over 300, was super efficient, was good. And then you look at heading into the game this week. So leaving out this Titans game, Tua's stats with Tyreek off the field this year: 63 of 76 for 82.9 completion percentage, 639 yards, averaging about 8.4 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 119.2 passer rating, a 0.31 EPA per pass attempt, a 59.2 success rate. I mean, there were games where Tyreek's been banged up this year, where Tua's had some of his most efficient drives with Tyreek off the field. So it's, again, I talk about what I talked about earlier. It's not about, and you look at Tua, right? We brought up this chart here many times. There's only 7 quarterbacks in the NFL who throw to their first read less than Tua. All right. Tua's like 24th in the NFL at throwing at his first read. A lot of his production comes from his second and third read. And so anyways, so we know it's not about the reads and the progressions. I mean, if you watch the tape, 1, 2 flushed out, 1, 2, 3 flushed out. Sometimes he got happy feet, but for the most part, he was making his reads and then he's flushing out, because the coverage was really good when Tyreek went out. Their defense adapted, did what he said. They doubled Jalen, and they just started taking away options. There was a lot of time we broke down the all 22 where the coverage downfield was good. I mean, and that's what happens when you see that 3-high shell that they were replicating. We've seen it numerous times, and we were most effective against it when we first saw it this season, when the Patriots did. Why? Run underneath and take the stuff underneath that the defense gives you, pull them up into the box, and then that's when you can try and beat them, right? And we kind of getting away from that a little bit. We haven't been really that great against the 3-high shell the last 2 times compared against the first time, and they're not doing much different. They're still going robber looks, flushing in some Tampa 2 in there, all this kind of stuff we've seen before that we beat, that the Patriots were doing. And, the pressure moments, Neal. People want to bring out the pressure moment at the end there with Tennessee and the final 3 minutes to talk about the KC game. So when we talk about the pressure moments, let's talk about both sides here, because to me, you can come from both perspectives on if this team is built for pressure. So I'll give you some examples, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. We've seen Tua step up in big moments like Arizona as a rookie, against Atlanta in 2021, I believe it was, when Flores blew the game, right? Tua threw the 2 picks.
4 touchdowns, right?
Yeah, but then he ended up throwing 4 touchdowns because he had an incredible fourth quarter, right? Last year against the Ravens, Bills at home. Hell, you can give him Bills on the road last year because he made the throws to Sherfield and Hill. They didn't catch them. And then Boyer let us down heading into the half. He was lights out against Green Bay before the concussion. He was back into his MVP form. But then you have games like the win and get in against the Buffalo as a rookie. Now, there were 12 to 13 drops, including a few that caused interceptions. He should have had over 500 yards, but the rest of the team didn't show up, right? That was one where it looked like only AVG got off the bus that game, I remember. You look at the Titans game in 2021, where it looked like Duke Johnson was the only one who got off the bus, but it was also bad coaching, right? You had Vrabel and the Titans adapt. They saw everything going beyond the sticks with Tannehill by dropping him back. Wasn't working out, so they adapted. They went fully on the ground with Henry and then play action off of that. You got the Chiefs this year. Tyreek drops a pass against Philly, right? After doing it against Buffalo last year, like I mentioned. Tyreek was a disaster against KC this year, right? Dropped the ball at the 31, so we left 3 to 7 points on the board on that play. Then he fumbles the ball on the 30, leaves 3 to 7 on the board for us, takes that off, and then puts 7 on the board for them. I mean, look at this too. It's occurring a theme that Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson in big game situations, and our offensive line. I know any Dolphin fan who watches us, and a lot of the time it ain't to his fault, in the most inopportune times, we give up our sacks. Like at the worst times possible in the game, we give up pressure and sacks. It's terrible. And then you got McDaniel. His play calling, his situational play calling. it's spotty too under pressure. I mean, he looked like a deer in headlights, Neal, when Tyreek went down and when Connor went down. He didn't you brought Tyreek, use him as a decoy to create space for the other guys. I know he tried a little bit, but for example, why are you dropping that whole wingback look and only using it for Tyreek? If Tyreek goes down, put Waddle in that wingback look and give him those, cheap releases. Start doing that stuff with Waddle. Don't just limit it. You know what I'm saying? But he looked like, oh my God. And then Neal, you throw the football on 3 straight downs when you get to the 6-yard line. Criminal. You do that on a drive before where you get inside the 5, you don't run the football. Criminal. All right. And then in the second half, well, let's give him his touchdowns. Brother, how quickly did those balls get punched in after the turnovers by Raheem Mostert? You only needed 2 or 3 chances, 15 yards each drive. They were in the back of the end zone. I mean, what are we saying here? And what I'm trying to prove here is it's a team, right? The team. It's not just Tua like some people are going to try and make, because I've given examples of Tua stepping up and I've given examples of Tua not stepping up, but the rest of the team not stepping up as well. And this looks like it's a team-wide trend, Neal. Now, you can look at it from both ways of guys stepping up and not, but we're not consistent enough in stepping up in big pressure games, and I think that's across the board.
Yeah, I think you bring up a ton of good points, and the one thing I will say is for what I see the Dolphins roster as is a talent standpoint, I would expect them to have better results in some of those bigger games that you emphasize. But I like, for me, we can't say that Tua's not built for pressure, right? Because his introduction to us was winning a national title from Alabama.
Yep, I agree.
There's not a bigger pressure spot, and I don't know if there's ever been a guy in the college level that ever developed or that delivered on a bigger situation than Tua did in that first appearance. So, I think a lot of the under the Brian Flores, the Titans and Bills losses specifically, the Dolphins just really weren't that good at football teams. Like, we, as Dolphin fans, try to see the positive, but from a roster standpoint, their roster was nowhere near the caliber that they have now, right? Just simply adding a Tyreek Hill. But I think the number one thing that you said, and what I agree with, is that to mask these offensive line injuries, and I think Tyreek plays, but I think Tyreek's going to be limited this week. Mike McDaniel is the one that can fix this. And what I want to see is more traditional offense, less of those pitch out runs that he does to, that are kind of telegraphed and easy to say. Run between the tackles a little bit more, challenge the speed of the linebackers. I know Quincy Williams is fast as can be, but CJ Mosley's got a lot of tread on those tires, right? And man, I don't think we take enough deep shots downfield in the passing game to people that are not named Tyreek Hill. Like, where is Jalen Waddle's downfield threats? And I know that he had a couple and he misjudged the one in a couple weeks. But if Tyreek is out, man, I'm with you 100%. Why is Waddle not inserted in that role where he is the one in motion? Like, Jalen Waddle is very, very good in motion when he gets a clean release. Why are we not affording him the same opportunities to do so that we are a Tyreek Hill? Because this, to me, is the game where all season we've needed Jalen Waddle the most. This is it. This is Jalen Waddle's opportunity to show that and I'm not saying he hasn't, he's going to be the first Miami Dolphin receiver ever to have 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons in his first 3 campaigns, right? But, like, I want to see him take over this game. And the last time we played the Jets, Waddle was cooking sauce. Like, and he didn't get every throw where he was cooking them, but he was open deep a couple times. Like, I hope they watch that tape. And, like, I don't want them to play scared, man. Like, look, I don't care if we throw a couple picks or whatever it is. Like, I want us to be aggressive, but I want us to be controlled and smart, and I want to be aggressive at the right spots. The Mike McDaniel, at worst or at best, left 12 points on the board on Monday night. Like, not kicking field goals when he should, the 3rd and 2 play calling to the 4th and 2 play calling. Like, he's got to trust this running game in those situations. And, you talk about the offensive efficiency. That Dolphins-Titans game should never even got to the position it was in if we called the right offensive plays early in that game. So, yeah, man, I think a lot of things you say are very true. And I want to see Mike McDaniel adjust because I will say this reason. There is if they lose this game and they do have this stretch where they're losing games, it's going to look awfully familiar to last year when the Dolphins started pretty hot and started to fade at the end. And I don't want that to become our stigma. You know what I mean? I don't want us to be the team that collapses in December again. So they got to figure it out. And Mike McDaniel has a lot of culpability in making sure that he's putting his players in position to be successful.
Well, yeah, because here's the thing. When you have Hill, right, and then you lose Hill, your game plan mid-game goes out the window. You got to now adjust on the fly. And
Right.
the one thing you can say, you can also say, all right, let me hit this. Finside, you can also ask this year down by 1 TD pick. What about when Tyreek Hill had the walk-in touchdown that he dropped in the Philly game? Chiefs game, you talk about the last drive. Okay, I can name more plays that impact the first half. You're talking about the last drive, one drive, all right? Waddle got down to the 26-yard line, called back due to a hold on the offensive line. We didn't get points on that drive. 3 to 7 points left on it. Start counting with me. 3 to 7 points left on the board. Tyreek Hill drops the ball at the 31. We don't get points on that drive. 3 to 7 points. So now we're at 6 to 14 points we've left on the board in the first half. Then Tyreek Hill, fumble, leaves 3 to 7 points. So what are we at? We're at 9 to 21 points offensively on the board, and that fumble led to a touchdown. So we're now at a 16 to 28 point swing. You want to talk about one drive in the Chiefs game? See, ignorance must be bliss for these people who don't know ball and only isolate certain things. The first half alone, I just laid it out, cost us 16 to 28 points. What are you talking about? All right? What are you talking about? Titans, last drive to 3 to win sack. Which sack? Right? I already went over this. Go watch the tape. I broke it down yesterday. Before the sack, we had Berrios on the other side of the field on a deep dig, and Austin Jackson totally whiffed on his block.
Right.
We would have been in field goal. If you add in the throw to Berrios, he would have made if Austin didn't whiff on his block, and then the 7-yard gain to Smythe, we're in field goal range.
Right.
We are literally in field goal range. Oh, now no game's going to have to deal. We have the ball late to yo, bro, are you dumb? Like, I got to ask you, are you dumb? Now you're moving the goalposts. You just excused the whole first half of the Chiefs game when they left 16 to 28 points on the board in a swing. You're excusing that. See? That now we can tell you got an agenda and a narrative at play. You just told on yourself. Philly, you brought up the Philly game again. Tyreek, walk-in touchdown, drops a football. We pay him $30 million. Last year against the Buffalo Bills in December, Tua balls out. Tyreek drops a football in the end zone. Then Sherfield drops a football in the end zone. We leave points on the board that would have won the game. Not to mention Boyer not getting off the field on 3rd and 17 and them converting that and scoring before the half. See, what y'all feel, everything is not on Tua. There are games that are on Tua. He didn't show up against the Titans in 2021. He was a disaster. A disaster on that game. Duke Johnson was the only offensive player that showed up. But instead of having a good coach, what did we do? Oh, drop him back and keep throwing. Yeah, Duke's screaming for the football, but drop him back. Coaching, a part of coaching, it's just like the run game. When you got to know who's got the hot hand. You know who's got it and who don't. I'll even do you one better. Did you watch Hard Knocks this week? Looked like Tua had a little bit of a rough week of practice there for a little bit, huh? Throwing some picks, and this is something that should have been ID'd early on that he didn't have it. Every quarterback goes through it. Did you not watch Dan Marino? Are you 12 years old? Do you not remember Dan Marino's 4-pick games in the playoffs our team would have to overcome? And you're talking about two of the biggest Dan Marino fans up here right now. How much did Dan Marino used to turn the ball over, Neal?
He did.
So let's not act like this didn't happen, bro.
Well, the reason after the Bills and Chiefs game last week, I got into a space. It was 8, chilling. I was chilling in the hotel room bored, and I listened to the Chiefs fans talk about the
McDaniel's
loss.
the reason we lost, brother. That's who gets the majority of the blame is McDaniel. See, I can tell you don't know what you're talking about because now we just went over. He didn't adapt to Tyreek being down. He didn't adapt. It's your job to scheme space when you lose that because now your game plan goes out the window. Your game plan is centered around Jalen and Tyreek. You lose one, you now have to adjust. What adjustments did you see? They threw a lot of the motion out the window. You didn't see it come back till Tyreek tried to come back later on in the game. But they weren't running the same motions with Jalen. They were running with Tyreek. So what happened? Notice how they started going under that 3-high shell when Tyreek was out of the game?
But yeah, I was in the space.
Come on, man. These people just want to blame one person. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
One Chiefs fan, after they lost to the Bills, was in there crucifying Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes did not play good in that game.
No, he didn't.
You know, they support their quarterback.
Tua wasn't good this game. He was mediocre. Go look up the definition of mediocre. Not adequate enough. Right. Not very good.
I don't think Tua was good, but if you thought he was the reason that we lost the game,
the offensive line and
Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard didn't play good games. Our safety.
Well, I could say this too: if he only had to put up with one of the two, if he only had the offensive line injuries and not the bad play calling and dude. I've said it, and I've seen other people I respect in this community, and there's not very many of them, come out here and say that was arguably, I've said it publicly, and I've seen other people say that was McDaniel's worst head coaching job as a Miami Dolphin. What are we talking about?
I think it was the single worst game he had.
That was his worst job.
I agree.
Terrible.
It was awful. He was.
He looked like a deer in headlights, bro. As a coach, he looked like a deer in headlights.
And then when Tyreek popped back in the game, even though he was limited, then the offense started to open up again. I feel like he's comfortable calling plays with Tyreek, and if he's not out there, he doesn't really know what to do.
Bro, it's so simple. Just shift your responsibilities to Jalen. Why isn't he being trained? He should be, buddy, I'm doing that wing back cheat motion all day with Jalen Waddle. Jalen's a 4.27, 4.31 guy. What are we saying here?
And one of the things he thrives in is when people play that 3 safety shell, Waddle is so good underneath, man. He is so good underneath.
And that's what you need to do. Kill him underneath, bro. Just murder them. Why? Neal, I'll say it. He's not signed still. Zach Ertz, bro. Come on, man. If that guy could block and was healthy right now, he would kill it with us. He would murder it.
I think it leads to a bigger conversation. We know what we have in Hill and Waddle. I would say that I am disappointed with the rest of the wide receiver group. Overall on this football season. I know Cedric Wilson's played some good football. I would never have thought that he was the third best option in this offense right now. And I'm not saying Berrios has been bad. I just expected a little bit more from him, right? I expected Chase Claypool to have some opportunities. I don't think we're going to see Chase Claypool get any opportunities.
Now I'll give Tua. I'll give Tua some trouble right here. On that last play where he stepped up and Eichenberg, Eichenberg, first of all, let the free man, then Tua tripped over him.
Right.
But Berrios was streaking open and had his hand open, and you had him, but Tua didn't. That's the problem. These people, it's funny. These people claim to be Dolphin fans, but they clearly never watched Tom Brady in Miami because we used to see what Jason Taylor, Cam Wake, and those boys used to do to Tom Brady and the happy feet and the inconsistencies and remember how inaccurate Tom Brady would get when he came to Miami?
At home, we had Tom
we would get in his head. Yeah, bro. Absolutely. Make him feel uncomfortable. This happens to the GOATs, and these people think it only happens to Tua Tagovailoa. It's hilarious.
Well, and it's crazy because here's the truth: is Tua even the fumble? Sure, it looked like it to me that was Eichenberg didn't get the ball deep enough on that snap.
Yeah, that's what happened. He didn't get up far enough above.
Tua really didn't. No picks, didn't turn. You know what I mean? It wasn't Tua out there throwing up on himself. I would say. It was a bad game for everyone. If your name wasn't David Long, Christian Wilkins, or Zach Sealer, you really didn't have that good of a game, out there. Really, honestly, we're not, no one's talking about the fact that as good as Andrew Van Ginkel's been all season against a horrible right tackle for the Titans, he did nothing pressure-wise. And we didn't talk about Bradley Chubb. I mean, Bradley Chubb has had a good season, and he's got his fumble recoveries.
3 missed sacks. 3 missed sacks, bro.
If we count missed sacks in the last 3
and
weeks,
a penalty that cost us points.
Right. 4 points that ultimately cost you the game, right? Like, so it's like there's accountability that goes around. You know what? Honestly, seriously, David Long, Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins, they earned their pay this week. If you're not one of those three guys, you probably should go refund your paycheck for the week and go out and get after it.
Well, I got to admit, when I watch back on the film, right, with Ramsey, with that over route, that was blown coverage by Kohu and zone. And then
had his worst game as a Dolphin.
And then when I watched the play he bit up on D-Hop and let Henry, that was on Brandon Jones. That's where having Javon Holland was the safety was supposed to come up. Two-trap was supposed to come up and take the outside man, right? Because you count from the boundary 1, 2, and the 2 was Hopkins. So that was Ramsey's responsibility in the slot. So he came up to the slot. And then the 1 was supposed to be picked up by the safety and Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones had a terrible game too.
Oh, dude, give me Rowan McKinley back on this roster.
Bro, I'm shocked they cut him because
release Brandon Jones. He's awful.
Brandon Jones is a liability. He's getting guys hurt and he's blowing assignments.
And we're not utilizing him to be that blitzing defensive back anymore. So he really doesn't have much value here at all. Is Javon Holland coming back this week, Reason, or do we not know yet?
I don't know, bro. Did you hear what he said? He's got an MCL sprain in each leg.
So I have a buddy who's a Jets fan. He's on Twitter. I retweeted him, and when Kyle Hamilton got a single knee MCL sprain, he told me it was a 3 to 4 week injury, and that when he came back, he'd be at 85 to 90%. So we've only seen Holland out for 2 games, and every player is unique and they're their own players. I have a feeling we're not going to see Holland back this week. I think he's coming back against Dallas.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this. Special teams. I've been here saying fire the lot of them, all right? Cut Bailey, cut Sanders, and you better be packing Danny Crossman's ass on the first Uber out of town. So here's the thing. Now, I get where people are going to say from. People might say no because of the media circus that might come with it. But if you take that out of the equation, this is 110% yes for me. The punt god. All right. Matt Araiza. Everyone knows how much I loved him coming out of that draft. I was like, yo, you need to draft this guy. Bro, everything's been dropped. That whole civil case, that whole lawsuit against Matt Araiza as of 2 days ago, it is being dismissed. And Araiza will dismiss his defamation claim against his accuser, in response to it. So because Araiza does reserve the right to sue the accuser's lawyer for defamation, right? So the dismissal of the lawsuit, closes the door on any potential NFL discipline for Araiza. In the eyes of the law, he's done nothing wrong. I mean, come on. I mean, you take him from the Bills. Don't let the Bills get back in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jake Bailey is trash, bro.
Awful. He's one of the worst punters I've seen here in a long time, man. The other night he had a punt, and it was short. It had no hang time. I mean, like, one of the worst moves of the offseason the Dolphins made was going from Thomas Morstead to Jake Bailey. Like, that
what
is
do you do? Do you entertain Matt Araiza even if it brings a little bit of a circus?
Of course. I mean, that if you trust the culture of your organization, you could take a risk on a guy like that. Look, it seems like me, based off of what I know, and again, we've said this for years in other instances that we're not lawyers and we don't play it. I like to go off what I know. It seems like this was a false claim that has been thrown away and that the guy's clean. If something surfaces that he's not, obviously we don't want him on the football team. But like right now, this could be a huge steal for the Dolphins. I honestly don't think it's a move they will make, but you're right on. I mean, look, Jason Sanders, I know that field goal was blocked. I didn't really break it down and look to see if it was his fault or the line or whatever. But here's my question. If Tua does complete that pass to Berrios and get us in the game-winning field goal range, are we confident that Jason Sanders is going to hit that kick? Like, I'm not. Like, I'm still not confident. And Danny Crossman, like, this special teams unit has been garbage for years. Like, I know they got the forced fumble. Honestly, they didn't force it. The guy touched the ball and they jumped on it. They still get credit for it. But, like, I just think overall our special teams is lackluster. Berrios is a good punt return, man. The kick return, it's kind of been eliminated from football. But when you look at our punter and kicker, and those positions matter in the playoffs. Like, look at I always give this example. The Ravens, they have Tucker. They had Sam Cook for all those years. Like, these games, the playoffs, you're going to win. You got to win a tight game here and there. Man, field position matters. I haven't seen Jake Bailey shift the field once all year for us. And I have no faith that if it's over 50 yards, Jason Sanders is going to hit it. So, Yeah, man. Special teams is a problem. It remains a problem. And Jason Sanders' release saves you $3 million against the cap next year. And we're $40 million over. I mean, like, are they potentially going to bring this guy back again? I just don't see how they don't revamp the special teams. They've done it on the offense and defense over the last couple of years. It's time to do an overhaul on the special teams.
Brother, I got to ask you, D-Hop said it. I want to get your thoughts on this. D-Hop said it. Cheetah for MVP, give praise when it's due. He's banged up. His only real chance to me at getting MVP is if he hits 2K. Do you think he still hits 2K? Because right now he's at what? He's at just over 1,500 yards, so he still needs over 400 yards in these final 4 games. And look at what we got coming up. Look at both Tua and I think like Tyreek's like 6th right now average in terms of MVP odds, and then Tua's dropped like to like 7th. So where are you at with this? Because bro, like, I'm ready for all this talk to die down. Like, I hope he has a 400 game this week so we can get the 2K out of the way and just keep moving with our lives,
Yeah, well, I'll say this. Look, I love Tua. I don't think Tua is the MVP of the league right now. He's a candidate for sure. I don't like that it's a quarterback award. First off, if the best player in the league is Tyreek, I think the fact that he has to break 2,000 to be strongly considered is crazy because, where did he end up last year? 1,750 something, was that what he ended up at, Reason? Like in the 1,750 range? Like, I think he's going to eclipse what he did last year, and his touchdown total is insane. And there's been a lot of games where we've kind of had to take the foot off the gas because we've been up so much. I mean, even like the game against Tennessee where he barely plays, he still, you see his impact. He has tons of yards. I mean, I think he could get 2,000, but it's going to be dependent on how many snaps he plays this week. If he plays normal Cheetah snaps this week, sure, he can get it. Ultimately, it's a quarterback award. I have a feeling the MVP at the end of the season is going to be Dak Prescott if the Cowboys continue to do what they've been doing. I think that, like, that's America's team. They have a huge fan base. He's playing well. Because, I even think it's puzzling to me why Lamar Jackson's mentioned as a top MVP candidate. Like, he's really not had that great of a season. Now, he did put the team on his back and lead that game-tying drive against the Rams and ultimately won that game, which looked like it was out of their grasp. But, I think Tyreek Hill right now is the best overall player in football. For me, if he could keep this up under another 2-year stretch, I would probably put him as the best Miami Dolphin I ever watched. So, and I still give that nod to 13, but I think Tyreek's knocking on that door by his dominance. And I'm sitting here thinking, does he play this week? I don't doubt anything that Tyreek Hill does. Like, I'm just never going to doubt the man because what he does on that football field, like when he got off the ground, man, when he was hurt and it looked like he was going to be fine and he ran off the sidelines, it was like getting the crowd pumped, man. It was an out-of-body experience for me, man. That's I actually left that game having even more respect for him gutting out that game when most people probably wanted. And I think he wanted to play the whole damn game. I think Mike McDaniel was kind of protecting him from himself a little bit. But if I think Tyreek's out there the whole game if it's up to him. And, man, I think it would be such a cool accomplishment to see him get 2,000. If anybody who's a receiver deserves it in football, it's Tyreek.
I just want it over and done with. All right, getting into the Jets this week. Devin Achane, he has a toe injury. Apparently, it might be a turf toe. Now, a grade 1 takes about 1 to 2 weeks. A grade 2 takes about 3 to 4 weeks. He's banged up. I mean, it's just, you look at what happened today in terms of like guys who would have been able to go and guys who wouldn't have been able to go. Teron Armstead, Javon Holland, Xavier Howard, and Austin Jackson would have had limited practice today. Devin Achane, Liam Eichenberg, Deshaun Elliott, Tyreek Hill, and Robert Hunt would not have practiced today if it would have been a full practice. So we're heading into Jets week. Listen, I think we're going to get it done. I ain't worried about Zach Wilson and what he did. I think Fangio's pissed. I think Fangio's about to make these guys pay. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's going down.
What's our starting safety combination if Elliott and Holland are out? It's Brandon Jones and who am I missing? I'm drawing a blank.
Say again?
Who's the starting safeties if Holland and Elliott both are down? It's Brandon Jones and who am I missing? I'm drawing a blank on who else it would be.
Needham. That's what they use. Needham. They use Needham.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. No, I think they win. I don't think it's going to be one of those high-powered attacks. I'm okay with the Dolphins winning ugly. I'd like to see them beat a Jets team ugly. I still think they're going to – I think they'll be able to run the ball effectively, get the –
Elijah Campbell, too.
Yeah, Elijah Campbell. I like Elijah Campbell a lot, actually. I think the Dolphins will do enough to win this football game. I would say for me, it's going to be something like 20-16, maybe an ugly win, but a win that we leave and we take, and that hopefully no new names on that injury reports, and there's a lot of names coming off for the following home game against the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm confident. I want to see how this team responds. I want to see how Mike McDaniel responds. I am interested in seeing who does play on this injury report, because a lot of people take this injury report as gospel, man, but it's a lot of gamemanship on there. Like, we know certain players get off certain days. I think starting tomorrow, we'll probably start have a better idea of some of the guys that are going to be out there and not be there. But I just think at the end of the day, I'm with you. Zach Wilson, he's better than Tim Boyle, but I still think that our corners can stop their passing game. Our run defense is still really good. I mean, we had Derrick Henry in check for most of that game. So I think the Jets' offense is going to be very limited. Let's not forget, they were one touchdown, I think, that scored 2 touchdowns in 26 quarters or something like that. I think our offense will probably do just enough to win. They do have Sauce and DJ Reed, but I do think Waddle can get open on those guys. The true test to me is you got to double Quinn Williams all day. You got to double him. If that's what you have is Jonathan Harrison and Lester Cotton or Robert Jones, you got to make sure Quinn Williams doesn't disrupt this entire game plan. You can't let one player on that defense beat you. So I'm excited, man. Can't wait for Sunday. I'm happy.
This is why I'm more confident in this game, because they're not in-game adjustments Mike has to make. He can prepare for these adjustments, and that is why I'm more confident we'll handle our business this week. But that's not to let him off the hook. He needs to get better at in-game adjustments. That adversity is got to bring that out of you. So, this O-line, this offensive line is going to be our, you're gonna.
It's a huge stretch over the next 4 weeks. A huge stretch over the next 4 weeks for this Miami Dolphin team. These are big, big games. I don't want to hear anyone when we win any of these 4 games say that game. That these are 4 huge games. I don't care what the Jets' record are. It's a divisional game. We're man down, right? These 4 games to me are equivalent to the Eagles game on Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs game in Germany. What we've seen since those games are the Eagles are not invincible. They've just lost 2 games in a row.
And if you're going to go 3-1, lose the Cowboys game because it doesn't affect the AFC.
Right. And then look, dude, I'm at the point of the season. I like to handle my own business, but I am going to be cheering for the Cowboys this weekend. Big time against the Bills. I'm the biggest Jacksonville Jaguars fan against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football that there's going to be on this planet. If those 2 teams lose and the Dolphins win, man, we are right back where we were before that Tennessee Titans game, with our fate right in front of us, man. So I don't. The sky isn't falling.
No,
it's the Miami Dolphins team and coaches to keep that sky where it is and keep their eye on the prize for everything they've worked for. And all this team has to do, because I'll be honest, Reason, I wanted the number 1 seed. A bye is always better than playing, but I also want this team to win a playoff game. Right now, they play the Houston Texans in the playoffs, and the Dolphins would steamroll the Houston Texans in the playoffs. And I love CJ Stroud, but we would dog walk that football team.
Man, it's
Will you turn the injuries off, man, on Madden? Go on there and turn the injuries off, man.
Yeah, really. And it's funny because when we got Ramsey back, we were all like, oh my God, we're finally getting healthy. The bodies were having come back for the Chiefs game. We're like, okay, here we go. And OG Barry makes a good point. Aren't we 9-4? Why does it feel like? Yeah, this is what I've said, bro. We're 9-4, number 1 in the AFC East, number 2 in the AFC. We are not 4-9, bottom of the AFC East, and well out of the playoff race. So people need to take some perspective. But what you got right now, you got a bunch of PTSD Dolphin fans, that have, they've only been fans for 10, 15 years, and they've seen what they've seen over these last 10, 15 years. And so every other team has to be like it, but nothing lasts forever. Eventually that cycle is going to break. And I think that cycle breaks this year.
Dude, the Dallas Cowboys lost to the Arizona Cardinals with Josh Dobbs at the helm, and it wasn't even Kyler Murray. None of these teams, they're good football teams on our schedule, but no one's unbeatable, man.
And the other team gets paid too, and the other coaching staff gets paid to stop you too. You know what I'm saying? So put it all in perspective.
Yeah, I always say the other team tries, man. Like, it's not just – I think so many people think it's supposed to be so easy. Yeah, it's not.
Could the great Patrick Mahomes overcome all the injuries in the offensive line in that Super Bowl game against the Buccaneers?
Well, that
was the most pedestrian we'd ever seen him look. And it was because of his offensive line. And remember the charts that came out, Neal? Didn't he run like 300 and some odd yards that game when they did all the calculations of him running away from the pressure and stuff?
Well, I always find it funny now that he's getting all these excuses for not having wide receivers on the perimeter when there was a time when Tua had Devontae Parker and Isaiah Ford as his best.
No, I'll do you one better. You remember how everyone was heartbroken that we got rid of Lynn Bowden Jr.? Where's he flipping burgers now? And Tua made you all fall in love with him. Mike Gesicki, all of you wanted to extend Mike Gesicki. And he had his career years. He loved Fitz, but he had even better years with Tua. Where's he right now?
I wonder if there's a possibility, dude, that he's back next year. I wonder.
Well, I'm just saying. See, here's my thing. That's why I think the tight end is the answer to this third option, because in the past, when we've lost the DVPs or what's his face, Preston Williams, who was the guy he started? Who was the guy? Remember, he made Preston. Remember how good him and Preston Williams were looking before Preston Williams' career sidetracked with injuries? I digress. All right, so don't ever tell me Tua don't elevate shit talent, because I've seen it. I just named a whole fucking receiving corps, but I digress. Notice how he loved the tight end option when his main option started falling down in the past. That's why if you get a guy who's going to threaten the seams, this is why I've suggested this, Neal. Let me put this past you. You paid him. If you lined him up, teams don't know whether he's blocking or chipping and leaking out. I know his height isn't ideal, but he's got the hands. He offers you what you need after the catch. Why not start threatening this stuff with Ingold? Why not start using him in more of a tight end role? Because he can offer you a lot more in space than any of your other guys, and he has better hands. Now, I know he had for drops in last year, but he hasn't shown those drops issues this year. He's got better hands, and he's a much more dynamic receiving threat, and he's arguably as good of a blocker as any of those guys in the tight end room are going to offer you. You may have the answer under your nose. He's just not 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, my off-season trade idea, man, is to give the Ravens a call and see what it would cost for Isaiah Likely. That's my off-season idea. I feel like he'd be a perfect seam threat in this offense. I think he's.
But you really think with everything that's going on with Mark Andrews, they're going to let him?
The Ravens they have Charlie Kohler behind them. They like what they have there. They're a team that values getting those third-round draft picks. Probably not, but it never hurts to pick up the phone and try, right?
It's not like the targets aren't going to be there too, Neal, because we're seeing look at Tua this year, just Tua for example, right? If you look at Tua, he's already thrown the ball 434 times. All right, right? That's a lot, right? Now, when you look at Tyreek Hill, out of all those times, how much of the times did I just say he's thrown the ball 434 times, right? 34. All right, he's projected to throw for about 568, right? So out of those 434, Tyreek Hill, his targets, right? 132 of those. So there's over 300 targets still to be distributed between Waddle and the rest of the guys. So it's not like the targets aren't there. I mean, 434 Tyreek has 132 targets, so that's 302 targets we still haven't accounted for. So the targets are there.
Right. No, I'm with you, man.
I'm just saying.
Honestly, for this offense, I'm going to take what I think you should do with late round quarterbacks. I think every draft, the Miami Dolphins should be looking at least one good receiver to add to this room, because you already have the probably the best duo in football, and if you find a competent player who can be the third guy, like that's cheap like that, and he's going to have the ability to eat against nickel corners. Like I think that's like the staple this offense should do is in those 5th, 6th rounds, running back, quarterback, receiver. Keep drafting those positions until you find them.
Well, look at our staff. We got the tight ends that came up under Embry, right? Chris Cooley, Jordan Cameron, right? George Kittle. I mean, we can keep going on. And then, Frank Smith, he developed and converted Darren Waller. So it's not, these guys are made for it. Anyways, guys, I'm going to be back tomorrow around 5 p.m. We'll preview the Jets game. Then I'm probably going to do the giveaway tomorrow too. So go to episode 901. Tell me who your midseason MVP was up until that point. And use the hashtag MVP. Be publicly surprised you'll be entered. So I'm going to do the giveaways tomorrow for the Waddle and the Tua shirts. So be out on the lookout for that show. 5 o'clock Eastern, and I'll be for live reaction and 5th quarter post-game show this Sunday. Always a pleasure, Neal. Guys, we'll see you on the next one. As always, fins up all day, every day.